Hi. Today we will tell you the story of the largest and most dangerous submarine. Project Shark Submarine. If you like the video, please like it and subscribe to our channel. 173 meters long, 48,000 tons of displacement, 2 nuclear reactors and a unique design, inside which in combat mode are weapons capable of destroying an entire continent. These submarines became the most powerful weapons, symbols of the power of the Soviet Navy and symbols of the fear of the Cold War. Today you will find the legend of the nuclear leviathans. If you like the video, please like it and subscribe to our channel. By the end of the 1960s, nuclear parity between the United States and the Soviet Union was fully formed. It was obvious to each side that any attempt at a preemptive strike against the enemy would inevitably lead to a retaliatory strike. The result of which will be complete mutual destruction. In addition, even then, attempts to reduce the risk of nuclear war led to the preparation of special agreements to limit the number of weapons. The nuclear race has moved from the format of the quantity of weapons to the format of the quality of weapons. Both powers sought to create more powerful and effective types of weapons. First, this concerned ballistic missiles and their most important type, sea-based missiles on stealthy and dangerous submarines for the enemy. The result of this work in the United States was the UGM-96 Trident missile. This solid-fuel missile had a range of up to 7,400 km and carried 6 nuclear warheads with a capacity of 100 kilotons. The U.S. Navy has launched a large-scale project to create a new carrier for this missile. The result of their work was the flagship of the USS Ohio, a strategic missile-class submarine. Work was also carried out in the USSR. The strategic plans of both powers at sea were similar, and Soviet engineers also set about creating a new sea-based strategic missile not inferior in power to the American missile. And they did. The new R-39 RIF ballistic missile had a range of 8,300 km and carried 10 warheads, surpassing its competitor in combat power. But these achievements had their price. The rocket was 60% larger, and its mass of 90 tons exceeded Trident almost 3 times. Giving unsurpassed combat characteristics, this huge and heavy missile has become a real problem for the creators of submarines. The problems were not limited to missiles. The new submarine was to be able to perform long trips, including in the Arctic region. It had to swim out from under the ice several meters thick and perform rocket launches quickly. It was clear that no classical design can meet such requirements. Development of the Shark project was launched in the early 70s. Engineers of the Rubin Design Bureau had to create a hitherto unknown ship. To solve a whole complex of complex tasks, designers had to completely rethink the basics of the ideology of building large submarines. The result of a large-scale study was a completely new layout. In fact, it was the layout of a catamaran. The idea was that inside the boat 2 large hulls made of titanium alloys were built in parallel at once. Inside which were located the crew quarters, power plants and most of the equipment. In addition to them, the torpedo and aft compartments, as well as the central control post of the boat, were separately located. In the space between the large hulls, in turn, the main weapons of the boat were placed, 20 mines with ballistic missiles. There was enough room for them now. All these structures are surrounded by an outer steel shell covered with a special material that makes the boat less noticeable. The submarine has a huge reserve of buoyancy, almost half of its displacement is ballast water. This was done specifically to minimize the boat's draft, as well as significantly increase the lift when surfacing. Shark boats were designed for swimming in the Arctic, and these solutions allowed it to break through ice up to 2.5 meters thick. Naturally, such a huge ship needs a lot of energy. Shark is equipped with 2 190 MW nuclear reactors, as well as additional steam turbine installations that give the propellers a power of 50,000 horsepower. The boat is driven by 2 huge coaxial propellers hidden by fairings that reduce noise. They can accelerate the giant to speeds of 25 knots or 46 km per hour. The huge size of the boat and its new layout also affected the working conditions of the crew. Thanks to the large internal volume, the submarine has a recreation room, a sports hall, a swimming pool, a sauna, and other incredible bonuses for the submarine fleet. The crew and officers are housed in cabins of fairly high comfort. As a result, sailors began to call these boats floating hotels. Thanks to this, as well as other solutions. The submarine is capable of performing combat trips lasting up to 6 months. The level of security was also high. Due to the placement of compartments in separate buildings, the probability of death is minimal. Even if you received serious damage, for example, according to experts, the explosion of a torpedo that destroyed the Kursk submarine, the Shark-class cruisers would most likely not have caused serious damage. In 1991, on one of the boats of this class, Arkhangels, there was an explosion of a training rocket in the launch shaft. An accident and fire can destroy an ordinary submarine. But for the Shark, they were an unpleasant incident and the reason for returning to the port for repairs. In case of a disaster with the risk of loss of the boat. On board there are 2 rescue cameras that allow you to quickly evacuate the entire crew of 160 people. Shark-class submarines are capable of carrying up to 20 R-39 RIF ballistic missiles. Being the largest and heaviest sea-based missiles in the world. These missiles are equipped with 10 warheads with individual guidance, with a capacity of 100 kilotons. Each submarine is capable of launching all missiles almost simultaneously. Even being at a depth of 55 meters and bring down 200 atomic bombs on the enemy at once. A serious reason to refrain from attacking the country that owns such a boat. Later, the missiles were upgraded, and in the 21st century, the Sharks became the main testing site for the latest Bulava-C missiles. A boat of this size should not be engaged in close combat with ships and other submarines, but in this case the Shark still received 6 torpedo tubes. Capable of firing conventional torpedoes or special rocket torpedoes. For the production of ships of this size, the Sevmash plant had to be significantly modernized. A new building was built especially for them, which became the largest object of this type in the world. Its roof can accommodate 6 football fields, and the height and interior space would allow you to safely build a 20-story building inside. It was there that the first heavy submarine was laid down in 1976. In 1980, she was launched. Then the image of a shark appeared on its board, giving the name to the entire class. And the NATO classifier gave it the name Typhoon. Construction of the Vodka was carried out at such an intensive pace that it entered sea trials in July 1981, beating its American competitor the Ohio submarine by 1 month. At the end of this year, the cruiser entered service with the Soviet Navy. In total, 5 more ships of this type were seen in the cold northern waters before 1989. The operation of the boats was very intensive, and they showed themselves at their best. In 1987, the Simbursk submarine went on long-term duty in the Arctic. The boat Simbursk sailed in the sea for almost 6 months and during this time even managed to change the crew. The replacement was delivered to her on an icebreaker. Swimming of course was not always easy. In 1986, Simbursk collided with the British submarine Splendid, but both boats were not seriously damaged. In 1991, a missile explosion occurred on the Arkhangel submarine, which we have already mentioned earlier. Back in the mid-80s, one of the boats got caught in fishing nets. Such a large shark has not been able to catch anyone else. Sharks were the authors of probably the most epic and very creepy pictures of multiple launches of ballistic missiles. When the boat released its ammunition here almost at once, although the apocalypse did not follow. The launches involved the disposal of weapons and missiles and were detonated in the air. The Shark submarines were fearsome weapons and, along with their Ohio-class brothers, were considered true symbols of the Cold War. In a sense, at the time, the fear of their power forced the leadership of both nuclear powers to calm down and sit down at the negotiating table. However, the exploitation of these sea monsters was difficult and expensive. The collapse of the Soviet Union and the almost complete lack of funding for the Navy. During the following years, most of the ships were withdrawn from the fleet, and some boats were disposed of. As of 2017, there is only one giant in service, which has been modernized and received the name Dmitry Donskoy. This particular submarine is the main platform for testing new weapons. First, Bulava ballistic missiles. Probably by the mid-2020s, all the Sharks will retire, giving up the title of the main marine nuclear predators to the new generation of Leak missile carriers. More modern and efficient, but smaller. The world will probably never see such sea giants as the nuclear submarines of Project 941 Shark. They did their duty by showing the terrifying power of the nuclear fleet. They did not allow anyone to use this power, and now the sharks will take a well-deserved place in the history of shipbuilding, navigation and military affairs. Thank you for watching this video to the end. Subscribe to our channel and enable notifications about our videos so that you don't miss anything. See you in new videos.